Welcome to another episode of Peers Over Beers, your favorite digital and social evangelist podcast, with your industry veteran hosts, Michael Sandoval and Chris Tetzel. This podcast starts now. Do a straight line from where I am, all the way across the globe, you hit Tel Aviv, which I find fascinating.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
It's the El Paso and Tel Aviv are like right, almost like exactly within. Yeah, it's like.
Have you ever been to Tel Aviv?
No, I've always wanted to go.
Dude, it's really cool. I mean, it's warm, but I got a hotel right next to the beach both times I went, and it's the same hotel just because you can step outside and then there's the beach, you know? So it was.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful, it's the Mediterranean, so it's not that bad.
No, it's awesome.
That's awesome.
I mean, nice and warm the whole time. The nighttime is cool, but you can jump in the water at any time. I mean, unless there's jellyfish or whatever, but it was still, there was jellyfish warnings that you could get in the water right now, but be careful. But in another week, you're not gonna be able to get in because there's too many jellyfish. So.
Which is interesting. So apparently that's a sign of a warming ocean is the increased population in jellyfish.
Oh, really?
Which I find, interesting. And I don't know the biology obviously quite well, but something about they begin to surface to the, I think that's surface. I forget what it is. Yeah. Anyway, it because of the algae and a lot of stuff that's kind of growing, it becomes an environment for them to feel like they can go off and have a smorgasbord. The bad thing is that it just becomes difficult to swim in it anymore. And jellyfish will tangle up in anything and fish and the like. It's just interesting. And we will get to the podcast in a moment, but like, for example, I mean, you and I are of similar age. So, when I'm sure you remember in the Reagan administration, when the Beirut bombings were going on and military, I think it was the Marine barracks. But before then, I hear that even like Beirut, which is also real close to the ocean, was supposed to be beautiful, and it was like it was like the south of France of the Middle East, from what I understand.
Really?
Yeah. So I can totally see how kind of like Tel Aviv or that part of the globe is really pretty.
It's pretty cool. I mean, people go there year round, So, anyways. I went with summertime. It was really, really hot, but I didn't care. It was in Tel Aviv. So what do you want to talk about today?
Oh man, let's see here. What did we get to talk about today?
I know we
kind of when it's cold like that, I'm like, what? I used to start asking you questions like, "Hey, how are you doing? What's happening?"
I know.
No, you know what? I can talk about myself with stuff that I've got going on. I am still trying to get you, and I'm sure this is the same thing for all financial environments, right? I'm still trying to get used to the fact that it takes months to get things done, and it would drive you crazy, Chris. It would drive you crazy, and because it's driving me crazy, and I'm usually a very patient kind of individual.
Yeah, you're pretty patient.
Yeah. So and part of it is because it's such a restricted, it's a very what's the word? Highly regulated, highly secure industry. There are only a few companies that will do it, right? And so as a result, you kind of have to wait in queue. There's no herd of business in the digital side for financial services, which makes the whole idea of the what are they calling them? Fintechs, incredibly attractive.
Fintechs, yeah.
So, and it just totally makes sense, right? So they take a small platform. They're on the edge. I wouldn't say on the edge because clearly you have to be certified, FDIC and secure, blah 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 blah. But because there's some really good innovations from security, allows them to quickly create a framework, and then boom, you're off to the races. That's one.
So when you have legacy stuff, it's really hard to do.
That's the number two. They have zero legacy.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be great for everything. They have to be great for just one thing. And then that's how they get attraction, right? So I know like when you do Ally, they were really good at offering just a great checking account, right?
Yeah.
And they focused on it. They were maniacally focused on it. They created a great app. They made it very easy for you to use money. They part of their fee structure allows you to think you can use your ATM anywhere.
Yeah, that's
Pretty
right. And
much, right?
they pay up to like $10 a month or something.
Okay, so they floored it and limited it, right? I'm sure if you bring in,
It used to be unlimited, but eventually,
well,
who
yeah, people
uses
catch on.
I guess I just don't use ATM machines or cash much, anyways, right? But you need it every now
You
and
know,
then.
it's true. It's funny, not to sidestep this, but I try to keep at least like $10 bill in my
I
in
try
my
to,
wallet.
but it just goes away somehow.
Well, it does, right? It
I'll
really
give it to
does.
my wife here. I don't know what to do with
Yeah.
this. I'll
we,
take it.
we used to have we have mutual friends like a good friend of ours. His name is Ujwal.
Hmm.
Uh, he is from the fine sub-Indian continent, and he is a heavy smoker. And
I wonder if he
whenever we would
quit.
go, huh?
I wonder if he quit because he tried a few times.
Actually, he did. He
Okay.
actually quit. Yeah, yeah. I meant to tell you that. Yeah, he actually did quit. Although I think he has his onesie twosies whenever there's beer. Anyway,
And if he's hanging out with Devashish, I mean,
that's exactly correct. So the funny thing is, he never carries cash, and and he's not the only one.
yeah,
No one really carries cash.
I don't.
But I always carry like a $10 bill. And so he runs out of smokes, and he's always like, "Hey, Sandoval, Before he would ask, then he would just be like, "I just need your 10. I know you have it in there."
I'll carry cash if I'm in another country, just because, right? So
Yeah, but it's quite germane. I am really buried. I was going to show you some research on this whole idea of a cashless society, right?
yeah,
And that part of the which I don't have a huge understanding yet, but I'm learning it, is under my team, right? So this idea of e-commerce, which I find very interesting, and this is the part that I find very interesting about my job, right? So I have, even though I'm greenfielding an entire organization for digital, and everything's brand new, and and it's so brand new. I told you one time I'm having to teach individuals how to be okay to like chat online or be okay with not necessarily using or to use even email. That may sound kind of very archaic, but there's a fear, which is, and I think it's partly cultural, and I'm starting to kind of figure that out. That may be a cultural thing, at least in my neck of the woods, of being afraid, or not being afraid, but the fear of being told no or being told that it's wrong, and it's palpable, if that makes sense. And I'm having to teach folks like, hey, just what's the worst that can happen? There are a lot of backup systems. There's a right way and a wrong way to talk to customers. Just here are the rules, not rules, but here are the guidelines to doing it the right way. And it's and that's interesting, right? That
is it
encountering that.
is it because maybe the audience or your workforce are they older and not used to that kind of stuff, or are they what's the
Yeah, keep going. Yeah, there's a lot of very interesting things. So one, I think there's some cultural aspects where I can talk to specifically.
yeah,
Two, I would say for our membership, this is not and I'm going to be very kind by this. It's not just what it is. It's just technology is not pervasive in their day to day.
okay,
So El Paso is a you know very safe border town, but at the same time, it's also very kind of manual labor focused.
okay.
And as a result, technology is not going to be your day to
So
day thing.
cash is important to them.
Cash is still important. Exactly correct. But we see the demographics change. We also see the investment in the city change. So that is going to change, right? So
Yeah,
that
of course.
clearly
You have to
makes
be
sense
ready
why I'm
for it.
here, right? We're being ready for it. But we're in the beginning.
Clearly, it's going to take you years, I think.
Well, yeah.
I mean, not to be funny, but like, okay, it's going to take years anyways, but yours is going to take double the years.
Yeah.
Because
And so this is the thing that
what I
concerns me.
feel, something that should take you easily to get off the ground, maybe a year or two to get off the ground, and most smaller organizations like yours, I'm not saying it would be perfect, but you know, then you can build upon that, but it might take longer. Like, oh. Yeah, like when are you going to
It's
have a
it
community
is.
ever? I mean, that could
Yeah,
actually be
and
the
so
easiest thing to put up is a community, right? Because then that would be some form of digital for you guys to kind of test and start trying to get customer feedback and all that kind of stuff. Just spin up a community, boom, you can have one up in 3 to 6 months easily, and then start seeding that thing. Like you don't need all that regulation stuff. I wouldn't think. You know, then you start getting SEO from there, and then you start
yeah, no,
integrating
and
the
you
business
don't.
systems over time. So I don't know, man. That's just my thought.
So you're actually getting to something I've been thinking a lot about, and we talked about this thing in one episode, right? Like for next year, what is the step towards community? So I see, like for example, community now we'll call it self-service,
Yeah.
uh, self-help framework, right? So the way I see the community or a a is very kind of community focused,
Yeah.
community. I'm sorry, not. I have to be careful with the word community because I'm going to conflate two terms. I actually mean it in capital C community, like the El Paso community, right?
El Paso community. Got it. Yep.
um, where it can be an inspirational type community where we can rally behind certain things. For example, one of the one of our missions is about education, and there is a void in helping folks who don't or finances are not part of their everyday to teach them how to go through finances. Right, there's some interesting data that shows how kids coming out, and I say kids out of high school, didn't have not quite learned how to
Save their money.
manage their
I was
finances.
that way. Like I don't. Nobody taught me. I just had. I was never good at it. I was good at it or had that thought, right? But nobody taught me. I could be rich right now. Put it that way. If I were to save 10% of my paycheck at 20 years old, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I mean, just think about that. How can we? I mean, all of us are trying to push that into the younger generation, but nobody ever does it.
Nobody ever
Oh,
does it, and partly there's a couple problems. One is maybe at a maternal but paternal, your parents, one's parents, not yours,
that's
one's
right.
parents, they themselves did not have
Yeah, I
the knowledge. It's hard to
think
pass
that's
that
the
on. Um, Again, nothing wrong about, and I hate to qualify it, but you know, with most, I would say El Paso is considered, there's a classification in the government. They call it underserved community. It is a financially underserved community. Uh, there are reasons for that, right? Because clearly there's not a large amount of excess funds for banks to kind of make money on. So this is where banks like us make a good or a value because we actually don't have to make a profit as opposed to banks do, right? So we can kind of come in and actually help people through those types of educational pieces. So I feel that we can gravitate a community around mutual learning. How do I kind of get folks through the hump of understanding?
so.
And
So, are you saying building a digital way of doing some of that, right? Like, because we're talking about digital here. Like, how do you move that to be an online, and then how do you get to be an e-commerce, then online community, then whatever you're trying to do? Like, I'm trying to understand.
oh yeah, so if I were to kind of thread the needle, right?
Yeah,
Um, it's almost using the Apple view of how they began adoption. So Apple's adoption methodology was to convince you to flip from PC to Mac. Their initial adoption strategy was, well, let us be the first. We are going to get into schools, and the first computer you're ever going to touch is going to be a Mac. Well, in this case, it
I
was an
remember that.
Apple.
I remember
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. So you got used to working on an Apple. You were in it, and clearly something happened between there and to the end. But you knew an Apple, and it was something
Everybody
you
did.
could
Yeah.
understand, right? So there's a bit of a brand affiliation there. So I think the way I thread it is the same way. You may not consider us at the moment because you're still trying to understand things, but if we help you in that mode, we kind of walk you through it, educate in some way. Maybe when the time is right, we will be in that top level consideration for you to start.
Yeah, it's a good point. You could get into either schools or colleges or
Exactly.
something like that, to
Mhm.
really start
So
pushing.
we have currently, and the marketing department is starting this now. So we know this kind of synergy where they're working, and for the next year they'll actually push through it more. Working with a partner called Bonsai, and I don't know why it's called Bonsai, like the
Sounds familiar.
BANZAI, something like that. It's a third party service, and they do a lot of financial education. And I think we're subsidizing that cost in some way, but it allows us to offer these courses for free. Uh, and it's just a service to the community. Does that make sense? In other
Yeah.
words, we are going to take that, and to make this a kind of a value thing, we are going to take some of our, I wouldn't say profit, but some of the share that goes back to the members. We're going to invest that in the community by purchasing these licenses to go get this education, and then we're going to offer for free into the community. Does that make sense?
Can you track that and who's taking it and those kinds of
Yeah, yeah.
things?
There'll be some data, right? So this is the good stuff for our side. Not to be big brother about it, but it allows us to say, hey, here are some potential new members, and it's not in a matter of growing profit, but it's about offering more service, a higher deposit base that allows us to go do this on a bigger scale.
Yeah, of
And that's the
course.
great part. That's the fun part. That's the part that I like doing, and that's the part about the job that's great. We've talked about this, about the fact that we can we can sell widgets online like the best of them, right? But it's someone else's widgets, right? And being able to do something that kind of gives back is kind of a nice thing, man.
Yeah.
I'll admit it's a very, very, very nice thing, especially in your community, which I've talked about before, right? So going back to stringing the needle, or stringing the needle, the thread through the needle,
Yeah.
is to grow our uh, acquisition strategy around people who are still learning how to learn finances. Give them that education. On the community side, I would love the opportunity to kind of take that training and then bring it alive. Bring in, and then and when there's money enough for it, to have, and I think very similar to the way you're doing it, experts in the financial field that kind of work through kind of low, um, underserved type of environments, and kind of walk through some simple stuff and do online webinars and make our own content. That's great
That's what
stuff.
I would do. I mean, I would just be gung ho to, find those people within the organization. I'm sure there's some smart people that like to get their names out, right? You know, do some webinars, then start taking that content and start blogging and putting how-to questions and things like
Yeah.
that, man. I mean, I don't know, man. I just think that's the easiest way to really push a community,
No, it
right?
is. And, and I've been thinking about blogs as well, which is another kind of element. The data, I just don't, again, blogs I think are great. And we had this discussion, right, for SEO,
Yeah,
but a lot of the communication elements today are on Instagram and on, um,
social.
yeah, this pure social, right? Oh
You
God,
have to
what's
have a
the one?
strategy there as well.
This is what's going to sound like a 40-year-old plus man. It's that one from China, the small little vignettes.
TikTok. Yeah.
No, I forgot what it's called. Uh,
TikTok.
TikTok. Thank you very much. Oh my God, TikTok. Lord
Yeah.
bless. Um, that's becoming a deal, right?
That's huge.
How do you take some of these kind of financial lessons, and I'm sure it's out there, and I've yet to go understand and explore. Take some of these small financial lessons and just make a TikTok channel and
Do you
provide.
own social?
Pardon?
Do you own social too?
No. Yes and no. It's more of a co-parenting. I've been using that term a lot.
It's just
So
like go ahead, whatever you want to do.
and
kind of.
well, it's kind of, and I'm sure you've been in a situation where the social media part is owned in marketing,
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same
but
thing here,
there's
but
an element where, like, if it goes to support, or some of that piece is owned in a more digital sense, right? So this would be more of a marketing piece, but I'd be highly interested in it. Right? Would something like that work?
yeah, I mean, it does work. I mean, you could see at the very least, like a Wells Fargo or other big banks kind of socializing their stuff on Instagram and even TikTok and just get to be creative and look, I think you just start in the beginning wherever that is, um, and just start doing some stuff. I don't know how innovative your marketing team is or if they can help you with copy and video type stuff or whatever, but my from my understanding, I don't think they're there
Oh
yet.
yeah, no. So you're yep. I didn't mean to cut you off, but this is like the beginning of the conversation, which you can get frustrated by the speed of things.
Yeah,
So you're absolutely correct. But then I started like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go. I'll be like Chris Detzel, like, yeah, I'm gonna go, do some stuff. And as a result, you get some pushback, not from the organization, but literally from the infrastructure that's set. Usually I have the other problem, which is I don't like your idea and I'm going to poo poo it.
yeah,
And the infrastructure is really easy. It's the complete other side. That's a great idea, Mike. Good luck
yeah.
setting that up.
I don't know. I think there's some aspects of what you're doing you could go do. Like, you know, the problem is that it's not you that needs to go do it. I mean, you being a VP of digital or e-commerce or whatever, you should have somebody to go do something. You know what I mean? Like that
Oh
is
yeah, I agree. So
so that
this is
could be
that
your issue. I don't
lovely
know, but
evolution. Yeah. This is that lovely evolution that even the company has to understand, right? I can't just go in there right now and push like we need to go, we need
yeah,
to
you
be
can't say, hey,
100%.
okay, we need an online community. I'll go get the
Yeah.
platform. Boom. It's
Yeah.
fine. We
Boom
don't.
boom boom.
I could set that up and I can start doing all these things. But the problem is you actually have a job to go do. Like you think of community, I guess, online communities, not community as a whole,
Mhm.
but that's not for you to go do, right? Like you can't be that
Yeah.
guy that or whatever it is, setting up an e-commerce site. Yes, you'll, if you go with some big vendor or whatever, so you have to be in some of that process. But then,
Yeah.
what does it look like? How do you set it up? And you need the tech skills and all that kind of stuff to do it. So you do have. I mean, who do you hire first? That's going to be your challenge because I mean, with the organization you have now, yeah, you have to bring them along, but you also have to bring in talent. I assume that actually knows how to do some of this stuff. You know, um,
Hmm.
I mean, so with the people you have now, they're just not going to be the talent that can do all of it. They'll have to learn different things, but probably these big things that you have to do, you have to get somebody else to kind of do that. I assume.
It's more than assume. It's exactly correct. And it's the walk before we can run,
Yeah.
as Devashish would always say, our old mentor. And right now we're doing a bit of some crawling is the best
Yeah.
way to say it. And it's all brand new.
Hopefully, it
And
gets
so
some
for me, what's
takeoff.
exciting is it's all brand new, right? It's new for everyone. For me, it's not new,
No, of course,
um,
but
but it's fun because it's new for everyone and they're learning. And I love to be that kind of professor learning
yeah,
kind of person. Yeah.
yeah, you're really good at it. I think. Well, and your challenge is it's too you're building a e-commerce digital team from scratch, right?
Yep.
Building anything from scratch is extremely difficult no matter what, right? And then to
Yep.
continue the momentum over time is really the challenge, in my
Yep.
opinion. Because to me, you have to show some wins. And if you're not consistently, like from a community manager standpoint, if I'm not consistently showing wins, I feel like I'm doing something wrong, you know? So I've always got to think about
Yeah.
the
Trust me,
stories and
I'm on that same. I'm completely on the same path too.
no, I think you and I think a lot alike just
Like for
because
example,
go ahead.
I was going to say, for example, we're going to upgrade our online banking system next week, which is great. Like for me, I'm like, gosh, that's great. But it took, I've been here for what, 6 months?
Have you damn
I should have had that done like in month three.
yeah. Well, if you don't have, the right staff all the time, I mean
Oh,
it's
it wasn't a question. It really was around like, this is how we do things.
mm,
This is how we set up. And of course, you push, right? One push. So here's the good news. Had I not
you might still be
pushed,
waiting
maybe we'd still be, yeah, exactly. So, okay, great.
6 months
That's
away.
my value add, right? But along the way, there's some learnings. that help in that regard. So it's not a bad thing. It's just this is the right pace. If that's the best.
Yeah, look, you got a way bigger opportunity than even me. Like I'm not saying what I've done is easy, but yours is at a bigger scale, right? And so uh, what you definitely have to be a little careful. So I get that. I think I'd be frustrated, man. I mean,
No, like I said, this is the beginning. Like you would be frustrated, Chris.
like sitting on my desk. All right, I've done too many PowerPoints already. I don't really need to do any more. You just let me know when you need something else. Well, I told you how I do PowerPoints now. I remember I just was never really good at them. Now I'm not saying I'm good at them, but I have it down to where picture, content, picture, content, picture,
See,
content.
hey,
It's just
that is a perfect
yeah.
recipe, by the way.
I'm like, or just pictures, and I'll just talk about it. And if I need notes, I'll put it in the note section or comments on the below. Because you know, I'm not creative. I mean, I get creative in how I work and how I get things done, but I'm not one to create a beautiful picture of some sort. I get so frustrated with trying to put uh, like I was putting this picture together and putting like two heads because these two people are doing a webinar together, and then I put it into the CMS, and then it's like tiny whenever it displays, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? This sucks. Or I put it in there and it's too goddamn big whenever it displays, and it just shows half of the image, and I'm just like, I don't get this.
Yeah.
This is bullshit, dude. And so I was gonna stop cussing.
I'm just gonna put a picture. I'm just gonna go on Google Images. This is gonna be great.
Well, the positive about some images is that you can go to like stock photos or whatever and get free images. And those are really good, clean images, you know. But when you want to combine an image, like let's say me and you were doing something and and I'm not good at info, whatever. So I have to learn about that, and so I'll put like two pictures, like Chris and Michael. And then I want to put something like ask me anything, Chris and Michael, whatever. And I do it. And it's like this
Mm-mm-mm.
tiny little thing whenever it displays, and I'm like, oh my god, like I don't know
What the hell?
these rules, like what are the rules here to put an image, uploading it to CMS?
I spent 2 hours on this.
I know I spent 2 hours. Dang it! So
Dang
and
it!
I'm like, you know what? I can't do this. Who can
And I thought I
create
was
an
so
image?
crafty about it too.
I know. I was thinking I'm getting this done. I mean, even if you go to like one of my last
Look at me! Look at
ask me
me!
anythings, I was doing some cool things. I was moving the AMA, putting words on this picture and everything else, and I was like, oh, perfect. Put it on there, and it looks like shit. Like what? It looked good at first, and now it doesn't. And I'm just like, oh, I can't do everything. I don't have
Oh
time, or I don't want to
man,
spend the
that's
time
hilarious.
just doing all this. Anyways, but
I've got other
sorry.
things to do, as they say, and he just kind of like, ah, that's fine.
Yeah, just say,
No,
hey,
it's all good, buddy.
so and so, make me an
Well,
image, please, or something like that.
chop chop. All right, my friend. It sounds like we've successfully have finished another fine podcast with you and me. I am one of your hosts, Michael Sandoval.
And I'm Chris Detzel.
All righty. Thank you very much.
All
See you
right.
guys next
Bye
time.
bye.